My name is Andrew Short. I'm an assistant professor in Ecology and Evolutionary Biology and curator of entomology in the Biodiversity Institute. All the stuff that my lab works on is kind of focused around the biodiversity of aquatic beetles. That's kind of the common theme for almost everything. My first memories of collecting insects were actually, when I was 5, we had a kindergarten project, and it was to collect 5 bugs. And so my dad, being very industrious, he made it a little project. So we made a wooden insect box that was painted green and had little stenciled letters on the front for insects. And instead of 5 insects, I had 15. With my research, I'm interested in how habitat has affected the evolution of these insects. And so a big part of my work is just going out into areas that are really poorly known and documenting the biodiversity of aquatic beetles in those areas. And so part of it is just going out, collecting, bringing them back, looking at them, figuring out how many species there are. If they don't have names, then we give them names. Most of my field work is in South America, so I really focused primarily between the Atlantic, between the Caribbean coast and the Amazon. That's that little narrow wedge of South America is really where I focus, and I've been there probably about 20 times doing field work in the last 10 years. So there are really 2 different styles of expeditions that I've have done. One is the more mobile style where you have a bunch of sites you're going to hit, so it's more of a road trip kind of style. And a lot of my work in Venezuela was done that way. We were trying to cover a lot of territory at once. So Venezuela is 2 times the size of California. So I think it's massive. And more recently, I've actually done a different kind of field work, which is more of an intensive kind of field work in Suriname and Guyana, where we really go to one place and we might stay there for a week. Most of the time in planning fieldwork is all about the logistics of being able to get in there and having everything you need. That is what takes the most time and effort and money to do. So in the Suriname and Guyana fieldwork, where we're going into areas where there has either never, no one has surveyed there, or they're extremely difficult. Well, there's a reason why people don't go there. Is it's very difficult to get there. The rivers are full of boulders and things like that, or there's no places to land. So we've had to, send in advance teams and cut helipads so we can fly helicopters in and get our gear and people in there. We've had to haul canoes over land through rapids and things like that. And so there's a lot of extra challenges. It's not just driving around and let's stop here kind of thing. It's actually might take several weeks. On those trips, you might go into one place, set up camp, and then basically you're like a hub and spoke. So you set up camp, and then you basically go out from camp as far as you can walk or canoe or whatever, maybe a couple kilometers radius, and collect as much as you can for a week, and then fly to a different place and then do the same thing over again. That's why this area is really understudied, is because it's very difficult to move around, and that's also why we only do one or 2 places at a time. Most of our collecting is done by hand, so there's really no surrogate for just going into a stream or a pond with a net and splashing around and getting what's there. That's kind of the standard, basic, best way to get the insects. I might come back from a trip with easily 50 to 100,000 specimens, and then a lot of those, of course, there's some of the species are the same thing. I might get 1,000 of one thing in different trapping scenarios. So we filter that out and mount a subset of what we think is unique and important, and so that's where we get the 4,000 to 5,000. KU's for the water beetle collection, when I started, there were around 50,000 specimens. Now we're probably approaching 175,000 to 200,000 specimens, so it's grown significantly. And it's probably the probably the 3rd largest aquatic beetle collection in the world. Certainly it's the 2nd best for neotropical stuff after the Smithsonian's collection. Yes, it's really cool to go on these trips, and it's a lot of fun. Really, it comes back to what kind of cool beetles am I going to find in this place that no one's ever been to before. That's really what the driver is. I don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't working on beetles. I often lament that if I wasn't doing beetles, that I would be a farmer, but I really don't know if that's true. But in my mind, that's what I tell myself. That's true, actually.
Yeah, I know. You should have been holding up your
I should have. Yeah. No.